Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Yep, it's Sunday, which means another edition of our Geezerology Gazette. We're going to talk a little bit about some things that happened this week in the news, in the music news. And Bob, you want to kick us off?
Starting out the gate, I want to talk about a band that's near and dear to my heart, and that is The Doors. And The Doors will be coming to a movie theater near you in November. And the movie is going to be concert footage of their legendary 1968 concert at the Hollywood Bowl. They even released a live album out of that concert. And it's one night only. And it's going to screen in cinemas around the world on November 4th. And there's going to be a special conversation with John Dinsmore and Robbie Krieger, the two surviving members of The Doors.
It's going to be live or on tape?
It's on tape, and so they've taped conversations with both of the band members, and then the concert footage is going to include footage that's never been seen before, and it's partly to celebrate 50 years of the LA Woman album, which hit its 50th anniversary this year. So.
This concert was a couple of 3 years before the LA Woman album, but
right.
Whatever. It's a good reason. It's a good.
But it's one of the more renowned concerts by The Doors.
Yeah, I have a DVD of The Doors live at the Hollywood Bowl. Is this the same concert that's just been restored or remastered?
Remastered and expanded.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be cool.
The live album. This is only a 22-minute album, so it only features just a few songs from it. So this is full length. And anyway, so if you're interested in tickets, you can go to thedoorsfilm.com. And I know I will be there.
Yeah, I'm still not going to movie theaters. It's not going to be online. It's just going to be strictly in movie theaters.
Strictly in movie theaters, one night only. And they did something very similar to this back in early 2020. And I know, Dan, I think you saw that movie, and so did I. And there were only a handful of people in the theater. And I believe it was like February or very early March last year. And in fact, it was the last movie that I saw before pandemic lockdown when they did that Doors film. So I'm assuming there probably won't be a massive audience. So no. Anyway, moving on, my favorite new Southern rock band, Blackberry Smoke, is coming out with a special album for Record Store Day on Black Friday, which is November 26th. They're releasing an album called Stoned, and it's going to be pressed on special red vinyl, and it's comprised entirely of covers of Rolling Stones songs. There will only be 25,000 copies of this album released worldwide. And the album was recorded in one take. They went into the studio, played it live, put it straight to vinyl. So
that could be interesting if you like the Southern rock. It could be interesting.
So I'd be interested to see what they do with Rolling Stones.
Yeah. Somebody actually put a new spin on decades old Rolling Stone songs. Yeah.
So a couple of the more familiar ones, they're going to do Street Fighting Man, Tumbling Dice, and then they're kind of digging deeper into the Stones catalog. They're going to do All Down the Line, Sway,
deep
Can You Hear Me Knocking.
Some deep tracks, yeah.
Yeah, deep tracks. So good. Alrighty then. So in the song American Pie, there are two lines that read, "While the king was looking down, the jester stole his thorny crown." And the popular explanation for those two lines is the king refers to Elvis Presley and the jester is Bob Dylan. And that, Elvis was the king of rock and roll. And then Bob Dylan hit the scene, totally changed music, and took that crown away from Elvis. Well, following the cliche of what goes around comes around, Bob Dylan has now been dethroned. Rolling Stone magazine has issued a new updated version of its top 500 songs of all time list. And Bob Dylan had held the #1 spot with his song Like a Rolling Stone. Well, he's been bumped from #1 and replaced by Aretha Franklin with her version of the Otis Redding song Respect. And the Rolling Stones were at number 2 on that list with I Can't Get No Satisfaction. And they have been bumped by Public Enemy with their rap song, Fight the Power. And this is the first time this list has been updated in 17 years, and back since 2004. And I didn't know this, but the way that Rolling Stone compiles, this list is they contact about 250 artists, writers, and other people who are prominent in the music industry. And they give them a poll of like 4,000 songs and say, hey, pick these songs. So the rankings come from these 250 some odd people. And so this time around, there's been some massive changes, to the list. There's a whole lot more hip hop, country, Latin, reggae, R&B and stuff in the list. And interestingly enough, though, more than half of the songs are still from the 1970s. So indicating that the old music, still holds a lot of power with people even up to today. And some of the classic rocks actually moved up a little bit. The Beatles, Stevie Wonder, Fleetwood Mac actually rose up a little bit higher in the rankings. So some interesting changes there. Of course, it's reflecting different musical genres we have today, more diversity, a lot of things like that. So real quickly, number 1, Aretha Franklin. Number 2, like I said, Public Enemy. Sam Cooke is number 3 with The Change Is Gonna Come. Dylan moves to 4. Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirits, number 5. Anyway, if you're interested in how everybody else ranks out there, you can go online and look up the list and see where everybody is.
Yeah, this is kind of the same thing they did with their recently with their ranking of the albums. It's like everything got, they upended everything and made it much more diverse than it used to be. Which, okay, but
nothing stays the same. Everything moves on.
Right. But it's silly to me that Respect and Like a Rolling Stone have been around for 50, 60 years, and now all of a sudden after 50 or 60 years, all of a sudden Respect becomes a better song than Like a Rolling Stone for no other reason except, I don't know, whatever.
I could be totally off base on this, okay? But I wonder, one, if it isn't because, Aretha Franklin passed a year or 2 ago, so that's maybe in people's minds.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying that that Like a Rolling Stone is a better song in Respect. That's kind of a silly. When anybody makes an assertion like that, I think it's kind of silly anyway. Right. But it just there's obviously more things going on here than just than what is a better song.
Well, I would say that you had one old song replace another old song as the best song.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bet that this is probably reflecting a different makeup of the people who are voting on these songs.
Probably so.
It's no longer a bunch of old white guys.
Yeah.
We probably have a lot more women in it and ethnics and stuff. So I'm sure that the people picking the songs have a much more diverse background.
Right. And which also tells you something about these kind of lists. I mean, not this list in particular, but these kind of lists is that don't take them for what they're not. What they're not is some definitive judgment on these things for the ages. It's just it depends on who's asking and who's being asked.
In the grand scheme of things, does it really mean anything? No, but it makes for some fun discussion and debate.
Yeah, my only add on that would be, I think maybe they should just separate it by decade. If they're going to if they're going to do that, because it's really hard to cover 70 years of music or 60 years of music with various genres. And
Do you have that list there in front of you, Bob? It's kind of hard to find this on the fly with the way Rolling Stone has this laid out, because it's like the web pages are real slow to load and it jumps around with all the ads. But do you have a list in front of you?
I have a printout of the top 20 songs.
What is the best Beatles song? What is the highest rated Beatles song? Just out of curiosity.
Just a second.
I thought I remember.
Strawberry Fields Forever.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
And then they have excuse me. Then I Want to Hold Your Hand is number 15. John Lennon's Imagine is number 19.
How about Elvis Presley? What's the best Elvis Presley song? Do you have that there in the top 20?
He didn't make the top 20.
Didn't make the top 20? Okay. Just curious. Yeah, go check out rollingstone.com. Like I say, it's kind of easy if you just want to go from number 500 and work your way down, but actually trying to go and find something specific here, it's impossible to do it.
Now, interestingly, like I said, the Rolling Stones were at number 2 with I Can't Get No Satisfaction. And Satisfaction has always topped most song lists. And, either that or Stairway to Heaven. Interestingly, this time, Satisfaction is totally out of the top 20, but Gimme Shelter is at 13. So.
Oh, yeah, that's. So Gimme Shelter is the best Rolling Stone song on the list?
Yep, it's the only one in the top 20.
I would agree with that. I've always loved that song. I've never been a Rolling Stones fan, but I've always loved that song.
I think Gimme Shelter is a much stronger song than Satisfaction.
Yeah. It's funny about Gimme Shelter, which I happen to like. It's a song that's made by the backup vocal.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the memorable
Mary
part
Clayton,
of it.
Right? Is that her name? Yes. Mary Clayton?
Yeah.
We did you did a blog piece on her.
Yeah. And
Geezerology.com on that.
Yeah. She, not trying to get too deep into the weeds, but very, very quickly, she did those vocals when she was pregnant. And she claims that the stress and the strain of reaching that caused her to miscarriage. So that song is forever associated with her with a miscarriage.
Yeah. Well, she gives it her all on that.
Yeah, she does. And then Mary Clayton.
The only problem with that song is that there's such a bad connotation with that song because that was the name of the movie and that was the song that was hot when Altamont went down, and so it's hard to hear that song and not think of that Altamont situation, which everybody says pretty much between that and Charlie Manson were the death knell for the 60s.
Yeah, and there's actually if you go on, you can find it on YouTube. There's a pretty awesome video of Jagger and Fergie doing that song, backed up by U2, and they do a pretty good version. I'm not a big Fergie fan, but she blasts that one out of the park. Okay, moving on to a little bit more sad stuff. As usual, a couple more obituaries to get into. George Wine, music impresario, has passed away at the age of 95. And his claim to fame is he was co-founder of the Newport Jazz Festival and the Newport Folk Festival. And both of those festivals are credited with beginning the music festivals that we all know and appreciate throughout the country today. Would there have been a Woodstock if there had not been Newport Folk and Newport Jazz? Then, of course, we have the famous Bob Dylan going electric at the Newport Folk Festival. One thing notable, Wine has a pretty interesting biography. He was considered a prodigy, and he actually retired at age 82, and he sold the company that did those festivals. But shortly after he retired and sold the companies, they floundered and the festivals were going bankrupt. So he came out of retirement and set up a nonprofit foundation that's keeping the festivals alive to this day. So
That's keeping specifically the Newport Festival alive?
yes, yeah, those two.
Oh,
Yes.
cool. Cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in his 80s, he came out of retirement and saved both of those festivals.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, bassist Roger Newell, who played with Rick Wakeman in Wakeman's solo efforts, including his solo albums and on tour and everything, has passed away at age 73. He passed from a heart-related illness, and he had an aortic aneurysm. And of course, Wakeman, after Yes, did a series of epic albums, Journey to the Center of the Earth, The Myth and Legends of King Arthur, and the Knights of the Round Table, and those kind of concept albums and stuff. And like I say, Roger was with him for many decades. So that's kind of what I got up to this point. Anybody else want to kick in with anything?
Do you?
Okay, yeah, just one one item here that will be of more interest in the Midwest, specifically mid-Missouri, Columbia, Missouri. There's going to be the Roots and Blues Festival scheduled for September 24th through the 22nd. It's going to be held at Stevens Lake Park, which is right outside the city, I believe. And it was postponed last year due to the pandemic, naturally. The interesting part about this particular festival, it's going to feature all female acts. And no, it's not an accident. It was a decision by the folks that are promoters of it. They're called, I believe, the Trio. And they wanted to make sure that female artists got more than a fair representation. Some of the acts that they have that are representing different genres, Sheryl Crow will be there, sort of the pop rock artist, rhythm and blues singer Mavis Staples, and Brenda Carlisle, not Belinda Carlisle. And so they're going to have 26 acts. Tickets will go from $62 to $177. And of course, at the end, I'll give you a website if you want to do that. Go to rootsandbluesfestival.com. Now, one of the partners, she made a couple statements about that. Previously, it was called the Roots and Blues and Barbecue Festival. Well, they decided to drop barbecue because they were thinking that was going to offend vegetarian and vegan only music fans. They said, we want to include everybody. If you don't like barbecue, they said they'll still offer barbecue, but they wanted to drop barbecue from the headline.
Well, you can barbecue vegetables.
You can. Her name is Jamie Varvaro, and she continued that they just felt like it was time to have an all-female festival. Some of the other artists include Tank and the Bangas, Joseph and the Rising Appalachia, and Pop by Lennon Stella. Sorry, I'm not familiar with some of those other female artists, but just the fact that Sheryl Crow will be there brings it a lot of credibility. She's a native of Missouri, a graduate of University of Missouri there in Columbia.
Is she the headliner?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, for that category. And she's also going to be, as a sidelight, a recipient of the Missouri Roots Songbook Award. And initially, the first one was awarded in 2019 posthumously to Chuck Berry. And it's the award originally went to John Boone, a Columbia resident who's considered one of the founders of ragtime. So the festival is also ADA friendly. There will be, for all concert goers, you must show proof of COVID vaccination or a negative test taken within 72 hours or less. So they're friendly, but they're being careful.
So my old high school bandmate, Scott Lowe, used to tour with Sheryl Crow. Is he still playing with her? I know recently he's been playing with the Allman
he's with Almond Betts specifically.
He's not playing with Sheryl Crow anymore.
I don't think so, unless maybe, she goes on tour again and she'll, ask for his services. But Roots and Blues Festival, $62 to $177 per ticket.
What's the date on that again?
It's over the 24th through the 26th over the weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
October 24th through 26th?
I'm sorry. No, I said September.
Oh, September
24th
through 26th.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's
it's
next week. That's next week. Yeah.
I've got some personal familiarity with this festival. I went to it back in 2013, and it was previously the previous company that owned the festival. They also owned the Blue Note in Columbia, which was a club that brings in a lot of national acts. And they sold to this company, Trio Productions. And Trio Productions is owned by women. So it's a female-owned company. And they said that they wanted to make the first concert they promoted there to acknowledge that they wanted to make a statement, about the underrepresentation of women and all that. And they claimed that like in 2019, fewer than 20% of the artists on stage at American festivals were women. So other than the three headliners, I looked at the list of all the other performers and I didn't recognize anybody, which doesn't mean anything in and of itself. But and what they do over the 3 days is they'll have at least two stages going at the same time. So amongst all these performers, you have to pick who do you want to go listen to. So you're not going to see all of the performers.
Right. Yeah, that's why those things go a lot of
Right.
times. Yeah.
So in 2013, when I was there, I was there for 2 days. I got to see Johnny Winter, Blues Traveler, Dale Watson, Samantha Fish, Jimmy Cliff, John Hyatt, Steve Earle, and the Black Crowes. So big changes have come to that festival, and this is, I think, their 14th year for it.
Okay. Yeah, I think they're going to limit themselves by having an all-female lineup, just because. Yeah.
Well, not taking anything away from any of these artists, okay, but Sheryl Crow is definitely a legacy artist. Mavis Staples obviously is a legacy artist, and I'm not really familiar with what Brandi Carlile has actually done. I know Belinda. I know Belinda Carlisle, from the Go-Go's. So
are they related?
I really don't know. I
Oh,
don't know
okay.
if they're sisters or what, but those are not. And I know things are really weird because of the pandemic and everything, but those artists really don't carry the kind of weight of the people that I saw back in 2013.
Yeah, let me just get a couple of quick ones in here. I see that Elton John has canceled tour. He had 20 stops on a UK tour that he was planning on, and he fell down and injured himself recently, and he's in a lot of pain and not getting around too well right now. So he's canceled his tour. Hopefully he's going to reschedule it for 2023, but I just thought it was interesting to toss out there. It's like these old, like we talked about last week with Phil Collins, these old geezers are still trying to go out there, and some of them just aren't.
Well,
Elton do it anymore.
Elton. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I thought Elton, I think it was a couple of years ago, he's calling it the farewell tour, which was going to stretch about 18 months. He was going to do North America, Europe, and then the Far East, taking breaks in between.
Yeah, these are 20 UK stops that were rescheduled from a pandemic cancellation previously. Now he's not going to do it because he's injured. He's hoping to do it. He's hoping to reschedule them for 2023. He plans to be officially on the road again for his farewell tour in January 2022. So it says there. He's going to try to perform at a charity event on September 25th, but that's next week, but he doesn't know if he could make that. But Elton actually has a new album coming out called The Lockdown Sessions. which will feature stars including Stevie Wonder and Stevie Nicks. That's scheduled for sometime in October. And I have a follow-up from, remember last week I told you that the Toronto International Film Festival was premiering this documentary of Alanis Morissette and her album Jagged Little Pill. This is actually I did learn this is actually not a standalone documentary, but it's part of a series of it's a docu-series that Bill Simmons, the old ESPN guy, that Bill Simmons produces for HBO, docu-series Music Box. Anyway, this was supposed to be one installment of that series, but they premiered it at the Toronto International Film Festival. And this was the one where Alanis revealed that she was a victim of a few instances of statutory rape when she was a teenager in Toronto trying to become a pop star, and her handlers raped her. Anyway, she did not attend the premiere of this thing at the Toronto International Film Festival, and nobody knew why. Well, now she's made a statement of why she didn't do it, because she was upset when she saw the film. She was upset because the film focused more on her personal life. She thought this was going to be a film specifically about this album and the Broadway show that is being revived on Jagged Little Pill. And so she got all in a bunch because she thought that she was misled, and they turned this into this, quote, salacious narrative about her personal life and about how things got wrong, and she got upset by that. That's why she didn't attend to this, and she's out disowning this documentary because of that. But it's like, I mean, how long has she been she's been doing this now for 25 years. When Jagged Little Pill made her superstar, and she doesn't know that when somebody's sitting there interviewing her with a camera running and a microphone clipped to her, that what she says is not going to end up in this film. I don't know, So yeah, but she's really upset because they put this personal stuff in this movie. It's like, well, she talked about it on camera and with a microphone, so you got to be careful. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there as a follow-up. Let's get to anniversaries here. Today is the 46th anniversary of the death of Graham Parsons of the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers. He died in 1973 of a drug overdose. It says here that his death was attributed to heart failure, but later was officially announced as a drug overdose. His coffin was stolen by two of his associates, manager Phil Kaufman and Michael Martin, and was taken to Cap Rock in the California desert, where it was set on fire, according to Parsons' wishes. The two later were arrested by police for doing that. Today is the 40th anniversary of Simon and Garfunkel's reunion for the concert in Central Park, where over 400,000 fans attended. That's a bigger crowd than Woodstock, right?
Right. Of course,
well, nobody really knows. Nobody really knows. But that's,
yeah, I mean,
it's in the same neighborhood.
It was a hell of a big deal when it happened.
I didn't realize that until I just now saw that on the page.
I mean, if you've ever been to New York and Central Park, yeah, I mean, 400,000 people at Central Park, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Monday, 52 years ago Monday, John Lennon told Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr that he was leaving the Beatles. It wasn't publicly announced at that time, but that was the first indication that the Beatles were not going to be any longer, when Lennon told McCartney and Ringo that he was fed up. 51 years ago Monday, in my backyard, Jim Morrison was acquitted on charges of lewd and lascivious behavior after his performance at the Dinner Key Auditorium in Coconut Grove, the section of Miami. But he was found guilty of exposing himself. At his trial at the Dade County Courthouse in Miami, Judge Goodman sentenced Morrison to 6 months hard labor and a $500 fine for public exposure and 60 days hard labor for profanity. The sentence was appealed, but Morrison died before he ever went to trial. Monday, 48 years ago, songwriter and singer Jim Croce was killed in a plane accident. His chartered aircraft hit a tree on takeoff in Louisiana. He was flying from, he did a matinee in Louisiana, and they were rushed onto an airplane to fly to Texas to do a performance that evening, and they didn't make it. The day after he died, they released a single called "I Got a Name." It was a pretty big hit for him. 1 year ago, Monday, American musician and singer Tommy DeVito died at age 92 of COVID. He's best known as a founding member and lead guitarist of the Four Seasons. Tuesday, 41 years ago Tuesday, Bob Marley, during a North American tour, he was jogging in Central Park and he collapsed. He was taken to the hospital and they discovered that he had cancer. He was told to immediately cancel his tour, but he had one date left in Pittsburgh, so he flew to Pittsburgh and collapsed on stage 2 days later, and that was the last time that people saw him in public before he died. Here's an interesting story. Also, it happened in my backyard. 33 years ago, Tuesday. I'd never heard this story, but I just read it. American jazz bassist Jaco Pastorius. Remember him?
Yes.
Yeah.
He died 33 years ago Tuesday. He died from injuries that he sustained in a fight 10 days earlier. He was trying to enter the Midnight Bottle Club in Wilton Manors, Florida, which is just on the other side of the county from me. And he got into a fight with a bouncer, and he fell into a coma and was put on life support and never regained consciousness. He was a member of Weather Report. He was voted in 2006 as the greatest bass player who ever lived. But what happened there? He snuck on stage on this night in 1987. He snuck on stage at a Santana concert at the Sunrise Musical Theater in Sunrise, and he was ejected from the premises. He wasn't supposed to be there, and he got up on stage and disrupted the Santana show, so they kicked him out. So he decided that he was going to go cross county over to Wilton Manors and get a little drunk on, and that's where he got in a fight with this bouncer. He kicked in a glass door, and he suffered multiple facial fractures, injuries to his right eye and left arm, and he fell into this coma, and he died in the hospital. Sounds like a guy who liked to have a little bit of fun.
He had some issues. Normally, bass players aren't known for their volatility.
Well, this one was.
Why does all the weird stuff happen in Florida?
Yeah, this was a few years before I moved here, before I got control of the situation, right?
Oh, you called DeSantis being in control?
Speaking of Florida, just to backtrack on the one thing about the charges against Morrison, wasn't he actually pardoned by the former governor of Florida for that? I can't think.
He was posthumously not too long ago. Yeah.
And then dovetailing on that, correct my memory, but there has never actually been any definitive proof that he exposed himself.
No. Most people over there insist that he did it. Manzarek himself said that he never saw it. What he was doing, he was playing around with a zipper on his pants, and the way Manzarek tells it is that he was wearing a shirt and his shirt tail was tucked in, and he was pulling the shirt tail out of the fly of his pants. Just yeah.
And I know there's also this famous picture where he's down on his knees with his face real close to
Right.
Robbie Krieger's guitar.
Right.
And I think they intimated that he was, acting like he was going to do oral sex, and Morrison just said, "No, man."
Yeah, it was. He
He
was quite drunk and got quite out of control. I've heard some audio clips of that, and it sounds like it was pretty much it was pretty chaotic.
Well, see, and then the other problem was that the Doors were there with a contract that said there would only be, like, I think 7,000 people in the auditorium. And when they got there, they found out that the promoter had actually turned it into festival seating and had like 12,000 people crammed into this thing. And there was a big fight between the Doors and the promoter as to whether they were even going to go on, because he had violated the terms. So yeah, it was from everything I've read, it was a nasty situation.
It started out nasty and just got worse.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, Wednesday, 36 years ago, was the first Farm Aid benefit concert. 80,000 people at the Memorial Stadium in Champaign, Illinois. It was organized by Willie Nelson, John Mellencamp, Neil Young. The lineup included Alabama, Hoyt Axton, Glenn Campbell, Johnny Cash, Charlie Daniels, John Denver, Bob Dylan, John Fogerty, Vince Gill, Merle Haggard, Emmylou Harris, Waylon Jennings, George Jones, Chris Christopherson, Loretta Lynn, Roger Miller, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, Willie Nelson, Charlie Pride, Bonnie Raitt, and Kenny Rogers.
That's
a pretty star-studded lineup there.
Man, you can't go wrong with that at all.
Okay, and then on Saturday, 56 years ago Saturday. You remember last week we had a couple of these of the Monkees and the Archies. Well, 56 years ago Saturday was the premiere of the Beatles cartoon series on ABC TV. Remember that one? Remember that one?
Watched that as a kid.
I remember watching that when I was a kid.
Yes.
It was what it was. It was in case that, those of you who never saw it, it was an animated version of the Beatles. They had voice actors who tried to mimic the Beatles voices, and they all had distinct personalities. Ringo was the doofus of the bunch, and things like that. But anyway, they would have like a little 10-minute cartoon where it was a story, and then in the middle of the story they would break out and they would play a Beatles song, in the middle of the cartoon, and things like that. But the first story that was titled "I Want to Hold Your Hand," and it had the group exploring the ocean floor in a diving bell, where they met a lovesick octopus.
which probably gave birth to Octopus's Garden.
Yeah, you beat me to the punch on that one, Dan.
Yeah.
Saturday, 52 years ago Saturday, 25 September 1969, John Lennon, Eric Clapton, Ringo Starr, Klaus Vormann, and Yoko Ono recorded the track "Cold Turkey." Lennon presented the song to Paul McCartney and wanted McCartney to release it as a single by the Beatles, but McCartney had no interest in it, didn't want songwriting credits, didn't want the Beatles name on it. So Lennon released it as the first single by the Plastic Ono Band. They've got sole writing credits for it. Saturday will be the 41st anniversary of the death of John Bonham, Led Zeppelin drummer. He was found dead at Jimmy Page's house of what was described as asphyxiation after inhaling his own vomit after excessive vodka consumption. He's reportedly had 40 shots of vodka in 4 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah. And also Saturday will be the 4th anniversary of the last appearance on stage of Tom Petty before he died a week later of opioid overdose. Birthdays. Today would have been the 87th birthday of Brian Epstein, who we talked about last week. Today would have been the 81st birthday of, I'm sorry, not would have been, it is. Today is the 81st birthday of Bill Medley of the Righteous Brothers. Bill is still with us. I almost put him in the ground there. Sorry about that, Bill. Sunday, today would have been the 78th birthday of Mama Cass Elliot of the Mamas and the Papas. She did not choke on a ham sandwich, as the old wives' tale goes. She died of a heart attack after performing on stage that night in London. Today is the 76th birthday of Frida Payne. Remember Frida Payne? The song Band of Gold?
Yes.
Band of Gold.
1970, yep. She's 76 years old today. 74 years old today is Lowell Cream of 10cc and later of Godley and Cream. Today is the 70th birthday of producer and singer-songwriter Daniel Lenoir. He's produced albums by Peter Gabriel, Bob Dylan, U2, Robbie Robertson. He was the go-to producer for a lot of these major acts back in the 80s. He's still working. He's 70 years old. 69 years old today is Nile Rodgers of the band Chic. He had a hit single with La Freak, and he also is a producer. He's produced Diana Ross, Sister Sledge, and he produced David Bowie's Let's Dance album. Today is the 63rd birthday of Lita Ford of the Runaways. Today is the 58th birthday of Jarvis Cocker, no relation to Joe Cocker. He's had a few hits in his day. Today is the 57th birthday of country singer Trisha Yearwood. Trisha Yearwood. Let's spit that out. I've heard of her. I'm not too familiar with her, but she's a big star, right?
Yeah, she's married to another country artist. I just can't think of his name. No.
It's the guy with the big stadium tours who sells everything out.
Garth Brooks.
Garth Brooks, thank you.
Oh, she's Garth Brooks' husband, wife?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, Tuesday will be would have been the 87th birthday of Leonard Cohen, who we have a documentary coming out soon about his song Hallelujah. He died in November of 2016 at the age of 82. Tuesday will be the 74th birthday of Don Felder of the Eagles. It will also be the 54th birthday of country singer Faith Hill. What can you tell me about Faith Hill? Anything?
She's married to Tim McGraw.
Right. She was Tug McGraw's daughter-in-law, right?
Exactly. A good lefty coming out of the pen.
Okay, are you guys being serious?
Yeah, Tug McGraw was a relief pitcher for the
I know who
for
Tug
the
McGraw
Phillies and
is.
Mets back in the days. He's Tim McGraw's father. Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I don't follow all country.
Well, you don't follow baseball either.
No.
Wednesday will be the 78th birthday of Tony Basil. Do you know who Tony Basil is?
Yes.
Hey, Nikki.
I'm a
Nikki.
fount of, but also she had a role in the movie Easy Rider.
Right.
She was one of the prostitutes, well, whatever you want to call her, bar girls that they picked up and they went to the cemetery and
She's a longtime actress and dancer. She became pretty well known in the 80s and the 70s and 80s as a choreographer. She did choreography for a lot of music videos in a day. And she just recorded this video of her singing the song Mickey, and it just became this massive one-hit wonder sort of situation. Yeah.
Wasn't the other girl that the two bikers took to the cemetery. Wasn't that Karen Black?
You are correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a great trivial mind.
For movies. Neat.
Wednesday will be the 70th birthday of David Coverdale, singer of Whitesnake, and also spent some time as lead singer of Deep Purple. Right. Wednesday will be the 68th birthday of Richard Fairbrass. Remember him? Right said Fred, I'm too sexy. Turning 65 years old on Wednesday will be Debbie Boone. You Light Up My Life, daughter of Pat Boone. Wednesday will be the 64th birthday of Australian singer Nick Cave. He's pretty big. He's pretty big back in the 70s. A goth guy. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. He had a band called Birthday Party. He had a band called Grinder Man. Pretty influential over in Australia and among the emo crowd. Also on Wednesday, forgot what day we're on. Also on Wednesday will be the 63rd birthday of Joan Jett. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, and what was the band? She the Runaways, also the Runaways. She was in the Runaways with Lita Ford. They both have birthdays this week. Thursday would have been the 90th birthday of Ray Charles, who died in 2004. Thursday, 72 years old, Bob, the boss.
Okay, I'm not there yet.
The boss. The boss.
Oh, okay.
The boss will be 72 years old on Thursday. Friday will be the 79th birthday of Gary Marsden, Gary and the Pacemakers. Ferry Cross the Mersey, how do you do it? They came from Liverpool and were also managed by Brian Epstein.
Didn't Jerry pass away earlier this year?
He died in 2021, January 20. Yeah, this past January. He died after he had a blood infection. He was 78 years old. Yep. He would have been 79 on Friday. Also would have been 79 on Friday, Linda Eastman, Linda McCartney. Yeah, she died of breast cancer in 1998. She and Gary Marsden were born on the same day, actually, 24 September 1942. And wrapping it up, I had to throw this one in here because on Saturday would have been the 91st birthday, and who would have thought that 2 weeks in a row that the Geezerology Gazette would have mentioned Shel Silverstein. Saturday would have been his 91st birthday. He was a poet, singer-songwriter, cartoonist, screenwriter, author of children's books. He came up in our discussion last week because he wrote the Johnny Cash song "A Boy Named Sue," among others. He wrote a lot of songs for Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show.
Yes.
He was he had a lot of cartoons in Playboy back in the day. Was he Spy versus Spy, or was that somebody else?
I think that was somebody else.
That was somebody else.
Yeah.
That was one of
But he wrote several children's books. He wrote a couple of hit singles for somebody named Tom Paul Glazer.
He's a country outlaw country kind of guy.
He put another log in the fire. He wrote a hit for Loretta Lynn called "One's on the Way."
He wrote that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He wrote "The Taker" by Waylon Jennings, if you're familiar with that. Anyway, that's anniversaries and birthdays. Look. Anybody have anything else?
Okay, so I wanted to throw out one last little item.
Okay.
And There is a rapper from Canada named Drake, and I guess this guy is incredibly popular. And he has just released his 6th album, September 3rd, and it immediately shot to #1 on the Billboard Top 200 album charts. And then also he took 9 out of the 10 places on the Hot 100 list for singles from the album. And also, he has all the top 5 places on the Hot 100. 1 through 5 are his singles.
Wow.
And that's only been done once before in history, and that was by the Beatles back in 1964.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I thought that was just kind of an interesting little thing to note.
Drake, what was? Yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea. He was, yeah, I mean, I've heard of the guy, but
Yeah, I've heard his name. The only thing I know about Drake is I think there was this YouTube, maybe TikTok thing going on. I think maybe it was last year or something, where there was this craze where people would jump out of a car and dance alongside the car to a Drake song and then jump back into the car.
oh.
That's the only thing that I know about Drake. But obviously the guy is really freaking popular.
Wow, I guess so. I guess so. He knows how to sell. He knows how to sell product anyway.
Now, my question, and I don't know if there's an answer to this. I wonder if that achievement today is as significant as what the Beatles did back in 1964. Because are we calculating these Hot 100 and Top 200 things the same as they were back then? I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea, but yeah, it's a much different marketplace now. But you know, whether it's as good as an achievement or lesser of an achievement, it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
But still, it's a hell of an achievement.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
That's
And
monstrous.
especially when you think that a guy who spawned people dancing along the street equals what the Beatles did. So
Bob, one little add-on to that. So have you heard you say he's a traditional rapper?
I have no idea what I couldn't, I don't know. I don't know he's from Canada and he's a rapper, but if you play the song, if you played his best-selling song for me, I wouldn't know who it is.
Yeah, I've heard the name.
Yeah, it's
So I finished up that series that I was watching on Apple TV Plus, the 1971, the year music changed everything. And yeah, I last week I reported I watched the first half of it. I saw the last 4. I've watched the last 4 episodes since. Yeah, it was okay. You know, the title of that thing, the year that music changed everything. I mean, they really overstated their case with that title. They didn't come up with the goods for that. It wasn't so much about music as it was just a lot of videos and discussion about what was going on in the world at that time. You know, and they were just kind of you know. I spent a lot of time talking about things that had nothing to do with music.
You know, I know this would spark an endless debate, but if I had to pick a year that changed everything in modern music, I'd go back to 1967. I mean, you've got the Doors coming out, you've got Sgt. Pepper.
1967 was a huge year.
Yeah, surrealistic.
Yeah, and they were trying to make 1971 as a big turning point year, and I kind of see their point, because it was like, you know, the Beatles, like I said last week, the Beatles had just the vacuum had just arisen, you know, because the Beatles had just splintered and gone their separate ways. So I had the emergence of, you know, of a bunch of whole different genres at the time. You know, it was like Bowie was emerging. Prog rock was emerging. Black artists were starting to find their way into the mainstream at the time. Isaac Hayes, Aretha, things like that. So I mean, they make a good point of that, but the real point to be taken there is that's that's the year that everything changed music, not the year that music changed everything. That's my quick summation of it. Yeah, if you have Apple TV, it's probably worth spending a little bit of time, but it's you know, it was average. It was average. There are a few music documentaries coming out that I'm anxious to see. This would be at the bottom of the list, you know, if you just have time for it. Okay, shall we wrap this up?
Good.
Thanks everybody
Yeah.
for joining us. Please like us, give us subscribe to our channel, and we'll be back next week with some more news. We'll be back on Wednesday with a look at the 1975 with our third album. I'm not going to try to recite the name of the album. It's a long one, and I'll get all tongue-tied trying to remember what it is. Something about online, a brief guide into online relationships or something like that. Anyway, Marissa will join us on Wednesday for a discussion of that album. Pretty interesting album, pretty interesting discussion. Join us for that. Join us next Sunday for Geezerology Gazette. In the meantime, have a good week, everybody. So long.